Everyone, Simon Keeling here. It's Friday the 20th of April. Thanks again for watching. As always, the site here is kept free of charge by the adverts that you see around the screen. So if you see an advert you like, click on it to go through to the advertiser. It's that generates revenue for us, and it keeps the site free of charge. Now, I did promise that I was going to do you an outlook, taking a look at how long this unsettled weather is going to last and see how things shape up for the early part of the summer. So I'm going to walk you through this. There's quite a few details in there that we are basically, frankly, very uncertain about. But I can kind of see the way that things are progressing at the moment. And there are certain aspects of the weather that we're able to predict right now, and others that are proving themselves to be a little bit tricky. So I'm going to be trying my best to show you how we see things shaping up. So here we are. This is the 7 to 10 day 500 millibar mean flow from the PSU site. And this is the ECMWF running from next Friday through to the following Monday the 30th, and on the right here is the GFS, so you can compare both models. Now there's the British Isles look here. Now what's interesting is this deep trough look across Western Europe on both models. Just look how deep that trough is. Now that's responsible for the unsettled conditions that we've got at the moment, and it looks as if it just sticks there for a while and doesn't go very far. However, what I've been looking at is this ridge that's off the eastern coast of the States and the ridge that's over Scandinavia here. Look, I'm just wondering if a connection could be made across the top here, which would effectively link these two together, force this trough southwards into Iberia, and effectively build pressure to the north of the British Isles, but probably keep the southern half of England and Wales in unsettled, cool easterly conditions. But across Scotland and the northern parts of Ireland, probably there bring us into drier northeasterlies. And that's kind of where I've been thinking things may well go. But it's not necessarily what the long rangers are seeing at the moment. This is the output from the GFS model. This is the mean of the output at 500 millibars. It's the anomalous at 500 millibars for week 3, running from the 3rd of May to the 9th of May. And you have to kind of turn your head upside down to see this, but there's the British Isles look underneath. Now these red colours, which are to the north of us, they're showing where heights are above normal, so it's here where pressure could be deemed to be higher, whereas the greens to the south are showing us where conditions are, where heights are generally below normal. Now this is indicative of high pressure across Scandinavia, high pressure building across Greenland, associated with those ridges that I've just shown you on the previous charts, and lower pressure down to the south across Europe. So it's picking up on this theme of the higher pressure forming to the north, which could effectively bring us a drier period, I think, for the early part of May. And I'm just wondering if that's where things are going to go, particularly drier across Scotland, Northern England, Northern Ireland, although the lower pressure to the south probably keeping southern England in more unsettled and cooler conditions. Now, it doesn't really last that long, because as you can see here, by week 4, this is from the 10th of May to the 16th of May, the anomaly shifts westwards, eastwards. So high pressure is over Russia, and we find lower than normal heights across the north and the west of the British Isles. So this is the European trough moving back into this area, and probably this indicates that the model is seeing wetter conditions coming back into Scotland and northern England. So this idea of drier weather is probably only short-lived, up till around the 9th, 10th of May. And down to the south we've got nearer normal heights. Now this is indicative of a jet stream coming across the Atlantic, bringing near normal rainfall totals across the British Isles. So let's just take a closer look at the CFS. This is from my site. This is from WeatherWeb, which is where you are at the moment. If you go to weather charts and you click on CFS, this is the CFS member 3 forecast. There are 4 members. The fourth, and I'm not going to explain it now, but how to use the CFS does here. Just click on that and it will tell you about how to use these models. But it's this 3rd member that I prefer the look of. Let me show you why. This is the rainfall forecast from the CFS, taking us into the end of April. And look, this is the unsettled conditions across the UK and much of Northern Europe. We'll head into week 2 and see what happens in week 2. And we're still unsettled look into the beginning part of May. Let's have a look at week 3 and see what's on week 3. Well, again, you see the CFS tries to keep unsettled conditions across the British Isles, and as we head into week 4, still with fairly unsettled look. But notice it's not really doing much with this high pressure up towards the north. Week 5 takes us into, again, unsettled to the north, but this is high pressure look around this period running from the 17th to the 24th of May. It's trying to make things drier during that slot. Now, I think this model runs late with that. I think that is probably a good 10 to 14 days out. I think that could occur during this early part of May, and I kind of think that's where things are going with May. That I think that the beginning of the month probably starts off wet for the first sort of 4 or 5 days. I think then we're going to go into a drier spell of weather through that second week as high pressure tries to get into the north, although the south stays wet. And then I think that high probably gets squeezed away to the south, which then means that from about the 16th or 17th onwards, it's the southern half of the country that becomes drier, whereas the northern half of the country becomes wetter. And that takes us through then into the end of the month. So we close out May with the north and the west being generally wetter, but the south and the east being dry, as you can see here. But this dry area in the Atlantic and the dry area of Scandinavia, this is indicative of high pressure to the west, high pressure to the east, and this is just a trough that's in between the two, which takes us to the end of May. And I can kind of see that as being the overall pattern of the month. Now, I wanted to show you as well the output from the JAMSTEC model. This is from the Japanese Meteorological Agency, and these forecasts go forward in 3-month steps. So, first of all, we're going to look at is the temperature anomaly. Now, this is the temperature anomaly for June, July and August. So this is taking us through the summer, and look, notice that we're pink across the British Isles. It's trying to make us warm across the British Isles through the summer period. Now, I'm not entirely convinced this is going to be the way. I think temperature is going to be near normal through the coming summer. This is the predicted precipitation anomaly for the same period. It's making, look, the northern half of the country drier than normal and the south wetter than normal. So bringing in wetter conditions into the southern part of the country, only marginally, but the north is dry. This is again indicative of this drier weather up to north of the country, this area of high pressure being there. And I'm wondering if this is perhaps the way summer goes, is that rainfall totals probably are near normal, below normal to the north, above normal down to the south. And I'm wondering if it's picked up quite nicely on where this is all heading. Let's just take a look a little bit further. This is September, October, November. This is predicted precipitation anomalies. Look, drier than normal. It's around to drier than normal for most. And then let's take a look at temperature anomalies for the same period. This is their forecast for the same period, September, October, November. Just look how cold it becomes. They're turning autumn to be quickly cold across much of Europe. And this is consistent with what they've been doing over the last few runs of the model. And then December, January, February. So this takes us through the winter months. This is precipitation anomalies. Look, dry conditions indicative of pressure being dominated by high pressure, bringing dry conditions. And then the temperature anomalies for December, January, February for winter are very cold, deeply cold across Central and East Asia, cold across the British Isles and most of Europe. So the Japanese Met Agency model certainly heading for a colder winter. So I think what we can take away from this is that overall conditions look as if they are going to be staying fairly chilly from now on in through much of the rest of the year. Yes, there'll be warm periods, but it looks as if we are into a cold period. And this is interesting in terms of global temperatures because it is reducing those global temperatures down all the time. So I hope that's been useful for you. Thanks again for watching. As always, as I said, this site's kept free of charge by the adverts around the screen, so do click on those and that generates revenue for us, and it shows the advertisers that you're interested in doing. So if you see one you like, click on it and go through to the advertiser. I hope that's been useful information for you and it wasn't too rambling. So whatever you're doing, keep the sun shining, and thanks again for watching. Bye for now.